This reminds me of being in Rockford, Illinois. We went back there because our relatives had settled Rockford, and so they had a big celebration for us. So they met us with the TV cameras, remember?
So your fame precedes this already.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
This is nothing for you.
Yeah. That was in 1836, wasn't it? Something like
1836.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean that they were there? Yeah, not us.
No, at Rockford.
We're ready to go when you are. Okay. The first thing I'd like to get you to do, if you don't mind, is for each of you to say your full name and your married name, so that we know who you are. And let's start with the oldest, right?
Do you want our maiden names too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
Put an Ann
Go
in
ahead.
there.
Yeah, I'll have Elizabeth Ann Apperson Myers.
Okay. And next.
Nita Black, Apperson Little.
Okay.
Mary Kent Apperson Elliott.
Okay.
Well, my legal name is Fanny Palmer Apperson Mason, but my friends call me Pam.
Yes.
Good. Well, the reason we wanted the four of you together today to talk a little bit about the Alexander Black House, and as you know, we're in the process of getting ready to restore that building, and so there are a lot of questions that we have about what the building was like and how it was for Alexander and his wife when they were living there, and I know you remember a lot of that, and so we wanted to kind of spend some time with you today to allow you to reminisce some stories that you remember from those days, talk a little bit about the house, talk a lot about the family especially. So let's start with the house itself. Tell me what you remember about the outside of the house, the colors, for instance, what the lawn was like, the yard was like. Even fences surrounding it. I know there's a stream on the property.
Yeah,
right?
there was a stream.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I remember it was a very large house, and my grandmother Lizzie and her daughter Mary lived there too with Uncle Alec, because he gave them a home with them. And wasn't the outside green?
Green.
Green.
Yeah, it
yes.
was green.
Yes,
When
and it had a nice stream, and we used to make mud pies. And then when the college students would walk by, we'd try to sell them our mud pies.
Now you pick that up and tell them what you did with the mud pies.
Yeah. Well, I had that same experience, and these cadets would sit on the wall that ran across the yard. And I remember taking a mud pie to this cadet, and I looked at him, and he had the most beautiful blue eyes I've ever seen. I can even remember that. And he gave me a stick of chewing gum.
Yeah. And did he take the mud pie?
I guess he did, because I didn't see it. But it was a wonderful place for children, that yard.
So tell me, you mentioned a wall around.
There was a wall that ran.
Where was that?
In front of the house, and up. It was along that pasture too, wasn't it? If I recall right. And it was a stone wall, and people would take walks in the evening, and then they'd sit on that wall.
Yeah.
So
And Uncle Alec and Grandma Lizzie would sit on the porch and watch people go by.
Yeah.
And a lot of the students went by because it was so close to town, wasn't it? That was all.
So, but it was a fun place to play
Yeah.
for children too. So.
Uncle Alec had a cow in that field next door to us. You know, we were always fascinated with the cow. Not that we didn't have plenty of them up here, but his cow was special.
Now, so then there was a pasture basically beside the
Yes.
property as well.
Yeah.
Small because it was just one cow in there.
One cow in it.
And then the stream ran through his property
Through
as
the
well.
yard, yes.
And that was Strubble's Creek. You know, it ran from way up on the hill all the way down, and then it ran underneath Dawson Brown. And then that's why it flooded, because that stream was there. And then it went on down and made the lakes at Tech. Yeah.
And at one time, that street behind the house was called Water Street, because there were other streams too, but the water collected there. And of course, that's known as Draper now, but it was called Water Street at one time.
So what about their water then? Where did they get their water? Were they pulling from a spring? There's a spring on that property as well.
Yes, there is.
But
There was.
We did
But
just have regular water
Yeah.
system, I guess.
Yes,
in
right.
the town, so.
Dr. Black or Dr. Apperson? Dr. Black lived across the street at one time in the M.I. Black house, and that was the first house in Blacksburg with water that came into the house.
So the first house with water
Was
into the house was.
you know where the
Back
pizza shop Backstreet
Backstreet
is?
is.
Yeah,
And that was Harvey Black lived there.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
His and his wife, and they had their practice in one part of the house, and then they lived in the other part.
What about electricity?
I don't remember
Yeah, we
about
had electricity.
Did we?
Yeah, we must have, because I don't remember lack of it.
We have actually found documentation that we think proves that Alexander Black's house was one of the first 12 to have electricity.
Really?
Yeah,
I
well,
didn't know that.
I didn't know that, but that would be
Well, that's
feasible.
possible, yes.
And that it may have actually been the house before this one, the one that burned, that had electricity in it, and then when he built this one, he included electricity in that one as well. So.
Yeah.
Well, if you've seen pictures of that first house, and then you look at this house, what a difference. He certainly went all out.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
His house.
Yeah. You mean he?
From a simple farmhouse style
Yes.
to this elaborate
To this,
Victorian.
yeah.
So go back to the colors again. You said the house was green.
Green,
The
yes.
body of the house. Do you remember any trim colors on
Yeah.
it?
Or were
windows
there
trimmed?
shutters on it?
I don't
Nita?
think so, but I don't remember any trim.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I
It
don't
might have
either.
been there, but I certainly don't remember.
He must have liked green.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
then but so many of the pictures now show some different colors in the trim, but
Yeah.
Really?
that's foreign to me. I don't
Yeah.
recall that.
Isn't there one picture there with it's red? The house is red. Well, we never remembered anything like that. Never. So,
And we found paint samples that make us think that that was the original color, but we're not sure. That's why we
Certainly could
were
have
asking
been.
if you remember. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, what about the inside of the house then? Tell us a little bit about the inside, your memories there.
Yeah, Nita and Elizabeth can tell you that. I can't tell you much about it, and you can't either, can you?
Talk about going, like when you went into the house,
Yes,
the hall.
yes, right. There was a big hall there. Yeah, and a staircase, and a grandfather clock on the staircase. You remember that?
Yeah.
I remember at night you'd hear that bonging.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the living room was off that, wasn't
Yeah,
it, Nita?
off to the right.
Yes,
On the
yes,
right,
yes. That's I remember that. And it was a fairly good-sized room,
Yes,
wasn't it?
yes, it was.
Yeah, and the kitchen was beyond there. That.
Well, then you had the dining room.
Yes,
and
right.
then the kitchen.
Oh yes, the
behind
big
that.
dining room.
And the woodwork was so beautiful
and a
in
big
that house.
pantry.
And it was plenty of places to hide. We played a lot of hide and seek in there. You know, plenty of places to hide underneath the steps and everything. Everybody knew where you were, but
Yeah.
And then Uncle Alec's bedroom was right across from the dining room. He had the living room and the dining room. And
Yeah.
I remember he would come and he sat at one end of the table and our grandmother sat at the other.
Yes, right.
And we were, as children, we were there, and then other family members came too. So very often it was a full table.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Every
he was
seat
very
taken.
hospitable.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Uncle Alec had the most beautiful hair, white hair that was curly, wasn't it?
did.
Yeah.
and I used to say, Mother, he's so beautiful. And Mother would say, he's handsome, Mary Kent. He's not beautiful. He's very handsome. And he was, you know.
Yes.
We loved Uncle Alec. He
Yeah.
was just a wonderful
Yeah,
person.
my mother loved him too, didn't
Yeah,
she?
yes.
Very much. And she didn't always love everybody in the family, but she loved Uncle Alec. I shouldn't tell tales out of school, should I?
No.
And your mother, your grandmother lived with Alex.
Yeah, yes.
After her husband, Dr. Apperson, died in Marion,
Okay.
then he offered them a home, Mary and Mother Lizzie.
Yeah.
And they came to live in Blacksburg. And that's why we spent so much time there, because she was our grandmother,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And see, by that time, Uncle Alec's wife had passed away.
Right.
And the
we
daughter.
never did know the daughter.
Right.
So we weren't
They-
familiar with them at all.
They had an adopted daughter.
An adopted
Yeah.
daughter.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
yes.
She was young. 20
Her
or
name
20
was Louise, was it?
Louise, uh-huh.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And,
I wonder, did you ever know where she came from?
no, I've never been able
From
Yeah,
to.
where
Nita
she
and I
came, I
would
should
like to
say.
know that, you know, where she came from, or how, you know, and she died at 28 years old, and it was during the flu season, you know, when so many people
the
died.
1918
Yeah,
flu.
that's when she died.
epidemic.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, of course, we never knew her then.
Right.
You know.
She did not have any children.
No, she wasn't married.
Yes.
Was she? Oh, that's right. She was
to
married to the
Luster.
Luster.
That's right.
Horace Luster. Yeah.
Oh, was that how they got
Yeah,
connected
yes.
with the Lusters?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
well, I don't know whether you're interested in the fact that when we were little girls, we had whooping cough, and we were there with grandmother, and she gave us bourbon with sugar in it. And my mother belonged to the WCTU, and she was very unhappy. But
Did
it kept.
stop coughing.
Yeah, we did. Are you interested in anything like that?
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's,
Those are great stories to tell.
yeah, yeah.
Oh gosh.
And I
That's why
remember
cough
that.
syrup doesn't work anymore. They've removed the alcohol.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it worked like a charm, you know.
I remember. I wish I could remember the kind of car that Uncle Alec had, but as a child, I wasn't very happy. But I'd have to go every afternoon. We went on a drive around the town.
Oh, really?
And I don't know who did the driving. I don't think he did.
Yes,
But we had that afternoon drive around Blacksburg,
Yeah.
and I'm sure our grandmother went.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of
no
course, I had
doubt.
to go.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
never remembered
You
going.
don't remember going.
No, I don't either. How
And
did
another
you?
thing as a child that was hard to do was when the mail would come in, you had to sit by the fire because they had the small fireplaces and listen to all those letters that came from cousins and
Oh, really?
people that you didn't know.
Oh,
But you had to be quiet.
yeah,
I was quiet.
yeah. Yeah, I remember once they entertained some people from New Jersey that were named Patterson. Do you remember them? And I think they were Catholic, and we didn't have fish for dinner, and that was a real faux pas not to have fish.
Talk a little bit more about social gatherings that they would have at the house. They entertained frequently, I guess.
Oh, yes, quite a bit. And of course, Uncle Alec had the business and the bank, and when people would come into town, you know, they stayed there a lot, just as guests.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people stayed there.
And then
And-
we sat on the porch, the side porch, and lots of friends would come by. And at that time, VPI was not so big, and you could be very close friends to various professors. And they would come, and the lady who was there, Louise Price, I wish Louise were here. She could tell you everything that you'd want to know. She made wonderful mint juleps and got the mint from the garden.
Yeah.
And then she served mint juleps to these.
Did she really?
people, yeah.
I don't remember ever
don't
having
know.
them in tulip
Well, I don't
till
think
I got
that we were allowed to
to
have
the
them.
west,
Too young.
except for the whooping cough.
Yeah.
That's
And
interesting
then
about
the Okie that came, who was the Dr. Okie
Paul
came?
Oakey?
No, not
Oh, I don't know who you.
down at Walnut Springs. That
Odie?
Okie.
Oh, this, you're talking
Odie,
about
Dr.
the
Odie,
Odie.
Dr. Odie, not yeah, and he spent a lot of time up there, and he was a wonderful doctor too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that was a very warm, interesting. You'd hear these men talking, having their discussions, and it was a. I just remember that as a pleasant, even though I wasn't in on it, but I
Yeah.
just
Yes,
remembered it as
yes,
a pleasant
right.
time
Uh-huh. Yes.
and a very special time for Uncle Alec, I think.
and Mountain View, the one they call Mountain View, didn't get destroyed by the North because the commanding officer said, "No, she has been gracious, and don't destroy this house. She's been gracious," and invited the officers in for meals and things like that, and they stayed down there in under the trees, you know, And then Dr. Odie, they went on through there, you know, and they were going to destroy that home. And so somebody said no, because he treated the North as well as the South, you know, the soldiers. So they left that home, and then he went on.
Yeah.
And
You're
so
talking about, was that when Sherman marched through or not? Did
No,
he go
I
through
don't
here?
think he came through
He didn't
here.
go through here.
who was the
no.
commanding officer?
Yeah.
Who was the president?
Yeah.
Rutherford Hayes.
Yeah.
Rutherford Hayes. And he was very gracious and nice to the families. And so they didn't destroy anything. They just went on to Mountain Lake, you know. So it was, I love those stories. I love the Civil War stories.
I love the attic, because it's been refurbished and all now, but it was just a cozy place, and our aunt who lived there used that as her sewing room. And once in a while I was allowed to go up there and kind of forage around and see all the things that were kept in the attic. Do you remember going to the attic?
No, I
You
don't.
Yeah, it was just a fun place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was
Uh-huh.
it finished space then? Was there a
No,
room?
no, it was just like you would expect an attic to be.
Okay.
Even you could smell like a good attic.
Yeah.
It has that attic smell.
Yeah. So that was a fun thing to do. And of course, we had the front stairway, and then you had the back stairway that went upstairs, and then there was a stairway too that went to the basement. And I remember being allowed to go down there a few times, but
Yes,
not very often.
Yeah.
See, Nita remembers so much more than the rest of us do. So
Because I was sent there somehow.
Yeah.
Poor people that had to take it.
When they had social gatherings like that, did they have help that came in to help them prepare meals? And
Oh,
yeah.
oh
Yes.
yes. Wasn't
Yes.
there a cook
Someone
there
all
all
the
the
time?
time?
Yes. there
cook
was-
there
there
was a
all
cook
the
there,
time,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, right.
do you remember the
And they'd
names
serve, huh?
of
Be-
the cooks?
just the Louise Price is the one we remember. That's the only
And
person
Bessie,
we remember.
her mother.
Oh,
Bessie,
Bessie, her
oh,
mother.
Bessie did the
Yeah.
and then
Cooking,
there
and
was-
then did
there was the-
Louise serve?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Louise would serve.
Uh-huh.
And who was the? They're not. She doesn't live anymore, but she did live down here on Roanoke Street. The black lady that. Do you remember?
I don't
Her name
remember her
Becky?
name.
Becky. That is
Becky.
right. Becky.
Uh-huh, you remember
that.
her?
Good for you. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Good for you, Pam.
So, and I remember having to help do some dishes. And of course, the sink in the kitchen was very small, nothing like we have today. And then they had this big pan with really, really hot water. And after they would do the dishes, and particularly I remember doing the silver,
Oh,
and they
yes.
put that in this hot water. And of course, I remember it was hot. You know, it wasn't very
Yes.
comfortable to reach in and
Oh, gosh.
get those things and dry those dishes.
Dry that
I don't
oh.
remember being made to do things like that.
Yes.
I think I liked it. I
Yes,
think I enjoyed
you
it.
enjoyed it. Uh-huh.
And but the kitchen was like a kitchen you would expect in that day. It wasn't like a modern kitchen.
Yeah, right.
So
And had a-
describe that a little bit, because that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, had that wood or coal stove,
Okay.
and then, as I said, that very small sink.
Did they have a wooden top on the sink area? Do you remember?
No, it was just the sink itself. That
Yes,
was all. There were
uh-huh.
no cabinets. There
Oh,
weren't
oh.
any cabinets.
Yeah, what-
and then there was this metal
what-
top table next to it that they put that where you
Did
rinse the
they
dishes.
Put, yeah, but where did they put the dishes? Did they have cabinets for the dishes?
I don't know. See, I
Uh-huh.
don't know where they were put, but I
Yeah.
think there were some shelves over on one side,
I
but
see.
not what we
Uh-huh.
would call our modern
Modern kitchen.
kitchen.
uh-huh.
And then, of course, next to that, coming into the dining room, was what they call the butler's pantry.
Yes, right.
And I'm sure they had some storage in that.
Yes, uh-huh.
And I just remember always, whatever it was, something sweet or something, but good things came out of that. Somebody
Oh,
always had a cake
Yeah, you
or
could walk a long way down. I wonder where the help ate. I wonder, do you remember, was the kitchen big enough?
Oh,
for-
yeah, it was a
Oh,
pretty
yeah,
good sized
yeah.
kitchen.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So that was
Well,
always.
Uncle Alec is,
And grandmother didn't manage the house. Mary managed the house.
Yeah.
You know, grandmother was the lady there, you know, with
Oh,
Uncle
yes.
Alec. But Mary managed everything, and she
Yeah.
did very well. Yeah.
Yeah. Grandma always was spoiled, wasn't she?
Yes,
Like I am.
always.
I was named for her. I remember going to the cemetery, and there on the tombstone, I couldn't believe it. It said Lizzie Black, and it didn't say Elizabeth. And I thought in the cemetery they'd always use your proper name, you know. But everybody knew her as Lizzie.
Yeah.
I remember there was no washing machine, anything like that at the house. They sent the laundry out. And that was one of the things that our grandmother did. When the laundry came in, she counted every piece.
Yeah. Oh.
And it better be there. She had it,
Yeah.
she put it away. She didn't do much work. We never did see her do much work.
No,
but
no.
that was one of her jobs.
Yeah, and she had beautiful hair, and,
Yes, she
and
did.
Mary fixed her hair, didn't she?
And she was always losing her glasses.
Oh, really?
And we'd say, well, there they are, because her hair was heavy, and she'd put her glasses up, and her
Yeah.
hair would hold her glasses.
Yeah.
And she was very, very active in the church.
Oh, yes, yes,
And at
right.
the Methodist church, she had a chair, just a separate chair, right at the back of the church, right at the
Rocking
door.
chair. Rocking chair.
And nobody ever sat in that chair.
Oh,
Didn't dare sit in that
Better
chair.
not. Better not sit in
That was her chair.
Yeah. And then the rest of us had one pew in the back that was
Yeah.
sat, you know. And if
Yeah.
you've seen the windows down at the Methodist Church, those beautiful windows, you know, we just always sat, I always sat there and just admired the windows. I didn't know what the preacher said or what he was talking about anyway, so
You like the windows.
loved the windows. Yeah.
Well, and that had that stained glass window in the house, you know, going up the steps. And that was a pretty window.
oh,
so
yes,
it's like
yes,
that,
right.
so.
Well, we took things like that for granted, I think.
Yeah.
Don't you, Nita? That's all.
Well, and the wonderful part about having, about that house for us, we lived here on the farm and we were in the country. Now, it wasn't that far, but seemed far to us. It was a dirt road and that kind of thing. And to be able to have a place downtown that we could go after school occasionally.
yes, right.
Or just go, it made us be more like town people instead of country kids. So we enjoyed it from that viewpoint too. And the school was close by, see, so after school we could very often go there, and we'd wait for our father to come and pick us up and bring us home.
Yeah.
So it was a wonderful place for us. We enjoyed that, having that.
Did you know other neighbors around?
Do you remember there was a small house right next?
Yeah.
And I remember a little girl named Drury Ann.
Really? Uh-huh.
Do you remember
And
her?
where did the Logans live? Didn't
They
they
lived
live?
Across the street.
Yeah, that's what I
The
thought.
Logans were
uh-huh.
where the hotel is.
You know, it was Black Logan was the store, too.
Yeah. And our grandmother and Ms. Logan, remember, were such good friends.
Oh, yes.
And we
uh-huh.
would go there a lot. And I remember as a child, all these older ladies, like us,
Yeah.
would come and
Thanks, Nita.
visit our grandmother. And I can't remember now. Gross Close was one.
Oh, yes.
You remember
uh-huh.
some of the names?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And they would sit and talk. And here again, you had to be quiet while they...
Oh, yes, yes.
And I remember always you had to take a nap in the afternoon.
Yeah, right.
And that
right.
was awful. I just
Yeah.
hated time to have to take a nap. But grandmother and May took a nap.
Yeah.
So you had to take your nap too. And we would have one of those upstairs bedrooms. There were 3 bedrooms upstairs. And I remember staying in all different rooms at some time or other. But we had certain things we knew we had to do, and we just did.
Yeah,
them.
yes,
And that was
yeah.
it.
Yeah, we were seen, but not heard.
That's right. And in the living room, you were talking about the
I'm
size
still
of the
under that.
living room. Our aunt had a grand piano, and she taught music. Remember when they taught music?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you could see that room was accommodated the piano very well.
Yes, uh-huh.
And
Yeah,
so,
grand piano's good size.
yeah. So
We eventually got the grand piano,
yeah,
didn't we?
uh-huh.
Yeah.
But but then after a while they sold it. But
Yes, right.
and I liked the, what do they call them? Pocket doors. You know, the
oh,
doors.
yes, yes.
You
And
go
that
to
was
it.
Did they have pocket doors
Uh-huh.
then?
Uh-huh.
Oh, really? I'd forgotten that.
Between the living room and,
Yes,
and the
uh-huh.
dining room particularly.
Yeah,
That's,
uh-huh.
And then on the other side of the living room too. But I just remember I liked those pocket doors. Like
Yeah.
being able to move them back and forth.
I remember Geraldine, was that her name? One of the black people that was there? And she said she would hurt us with pokers if we didn't behave. And
No, that was Becky.
Becky.
That
was
that
Becky.
was Becky that did that.
Geraldine
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
down here on the farm with, Mother.
She was the one that would take everything out of off the bureau, pile it in a drawer, and close it, and it all looked so nice.
I understand that those pocket doors have been preserved.
Oh, really?
They were moved somewhere and
Oh,
somebody
really?
had taken care.
Uh-huh.
Is that right?
That's right. One set is still in place, and the other set we know where they are.
Oh,
and the folks
good.
have offered to give them back to us.
Oh, that's
Oh,
good.
how wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that living room because it had, that circular part on the end
Yes.
and had bookcases in between.
Uh-huh.
And
Were they built in or were
no,
they separate?
no, they're down in our basement.
Oh,
They're
are
going
they?
back to the house,
Yeah.
too.
Uh-huh.
And
They're
I
going
remember
back.
reading or having somebody read to me the book Call of the Wild.
Oh, really?
Remember the Call of the Wild? Oh, I
Oh,
thought that was the most
oh,
wonderful
yeah.
book.
Uh-huh. Oh.
And I found it in that one of those bookcases.
Oh, did you?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Now, Pam, do you ever remember anything about the house?
No, because see, I was 2 when he died.
Oh.
Didn't he die in 1935?
1935. That's
Yeah,
right.
and I was born in 33, so
Yes.
I just don't remember.
Yeah, well, of course you don't.
about the house. But I remember Grandmother Lizzie very well.
Oh, yes,
Yes,
yes.
and
She
Mary
was an
Apperson.
unforgettable person.
She was very tall, and we were kind of in awe of her because our other grandmother was like our mother, very casual and, with us, but grandmother ruled the roost,
Yeah.
You did what grandmother said do.
Oh, do you by any chance remember that we were baptized at
Oh, of course.
In the
yes,
living
I was
room
I was
there?
12
Oh,
years
yeah.
old
Yeah,
then.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
So-
they had a silver bowl.
Yeah.
I
That's the
remember.
bowl that we put down with you all, And somebody said, the mayor, I guess, said, now if you ever need it. So I thought, if my great-grandchildren come here, I would borrow the bowl from you all
Yeah.
so I could have it because we had the silver bowl. Yeah.
But
We
I
had our
remember
own
us
bowl.
standing in kind of a line,
Yeah.
and we went through that ceremony of being baptized.
Yes, right.
So they
right.
waited a lot. That's,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, they
been a
didn't
concern
worry
of mine.
about babies being
Yeah, we didn't.
baptized
We weren't
at that point.
baptized as babies. So.
Yeah, right. Well, if I were 12, then you were 11, then you were 3 years
Younger than
that.
younger
9
than
or something.
Nita. I'm 3 years
And-
younger
and-
than Nita.
And how old were you then?
Well, Pam's 5 years younger than I am. See, so
Yeah.
Probably.
She
were
did.
you born at that time? Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
you were.
yeah,
Yeah, I was born in 33.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
uh-huh.
So what
Well,
year?
I stop and think about it and think about being there quite a bit. And in my mind, it was a long time. But it really wasn't because I was born in 26.
Yes, uh-huh.
And so by the time I would remember things, I had to be, 5 or 6
Yes,
maybe
right,
years
right,
old.
uh-huh.
And then Uncle Alec didn't live that long. But it
No,
seemed
no.
to me that I
Yeah.
went over a long period of time.
Yes,
But it
uh-huh.
really wasn't a long period
no,
of time.
No, I remember Uncle Alec saying that he loved good food and he was going to keep eating it even if he didn't feel too well.
Oh, yeah.
And that probably didn't
Yeah.
help his
His,
length of life.
yeah. But, well, if you remember too, there were different ones, but different nurses
Oh, yes, yes, I
stayed
remember.
there at the house with him
Uh-huh.
because he had to have care.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that- and you
He
remember
had
there was a bedroom.
professional nurse
Yeah,
too.
And there was a bedroom back of his room.
Uh-huh.
And I imagine that some of them stayed in
Stayed
that room.
there,
I'm not
uh-huh,
sure
yes.
about that.
Yeah, they were nurses all dressed up in their nurses'
Yes,
uniforms
oh,
and their
yeah.
caps.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And they were taking care of him.
Yeah.
And then there was that kind of large bathroom on the that first floor.
Yes.
And that was kind of Uncle Ellick's bathroom. And
Yeah, that was sort of innovative at that time,
I
wasn't
think
it?
so.
To have a master bedroom and a bath downstairs.
Yeah.
Are we telling you enough?
Oh, yes. This is great.
Yeah.
Well, what's the next question?
Well, let's see what.
So you mentioned the Black Logan store as well. Do you remember that?
Oh,
yeah.
definitely, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we all remember. I worked there as a child.
Did you?
Did
Yeah,
you?
and Uncle Ellick, not Uncle Ellick, but Mr. Logan said, now, I need that back room cleared out, and here were all these little tiny shoes, button-up shoes, and everything. And I said, well, what are we going to do with these? Because nobody wore those then, they were baby shoes. Now, I never knew what he did with them, but that room was full of shoes. He had a passion for shoes.
I didn't know you
so-
worked there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what types of things did they sell at the store?
Everything,
Yeah.
dresses and
Yeah.
shirts and
Yeah,
so
and then
forth.
they put everything on sale, and then they take it back and put it on sale again the next year.
And when
There are too many
the
of these things.
and when the Mr. Cook worked for Mr. Logan, and when the arsenal was built, the people there could get white shirts for the men. And I remember those shirts were supposed to be $2.98, and we were supposed to, and they would give us $15 a piece for those shirts to get white shirts. Yeah, because you couldn't get white shirts. I worked Black Logan for a long time.
But
My
see, we
goodness.
didn't have very many places in Blacksburg to shop.
Right.
No,
So
no,
they had a
that's
ladies'
right.
department on one side, if
Yeah.
you remember.
Oh, yeah.
And then just kind of general and men's and general things. And remember at Easter time, we always bought those little black patent leather shoes.
Yeah.
Oh,
They
yeah.
came from Black and Logan.
Were
Yeah.
they what they called Mary Jane's? Or-
Yeah.
And we had to have some white socks and those black
Yeah,
shoes
yeah.
for Easter.
Yeah.
But
Memories.
That was the store. I mean, that's
Yes,
either
right.
we then would have to go to Christiansburg or go to Roanoke.
Yeah, and and our father always said, well, you should shop in Blacksburg to
Oh, yeah.
keep those merchants supplied with business.
Because he sold his apples in
Yeah,
Blacksburg, so
yeah,
he wanted.
Yeah, and we rented some property there too.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
One time he wanted me to work in the grocery store, and I said, "Work in a grocery store? Oh no, never."
You snob.
Yeah, and I think back, and that would have been the most wonderful experience.
Of course
you
it
know?
would. Well, we laughed because what was Mr. Dillon's store before it was Dillon's? What was it? Bluegrass Market.
Oh yeah, Bluegrass Market.
And we
yeah.
traded with them, and very often we didn't ever pay a grocery bill because they bought our apples and we bought their groceries.
Yeah,
So
it was
we-
a barter system.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And then Daddy didn't pay his bills but once a year, so we did really well by getting expensive things the first part of the year, and then you had to taper off because you couldn't have expensive things,
Yeah.
because when the crop came in, that's when Daddy paid his bills just once a year, and everybody carried him along, But he sold his apples in Roanoke. I mean, he took them down by truck and put them in Bover house down there. And Mother would go with him sometime, and he'd say, now you have 15 minutes. And Mother would always run to the Cresses 5 and 10 and get socks and underwear. And then she'd run down to Aronimus, and she had a buyer there that liked, and now this, Ms. Apperson, this would be for this, and this would be for that, And when the dresses came back, Mother had them shipped back, and when the dresses came back, she'd say, now Elizabeth, you and Mary Kent stand by because Nita has to have her pick. And if Nita didn't get her pick, then she wouldn't wear the dress. It hung in the closet. So Nita always got the pick of everything, and Liz and I'd say, we have to take those ugly dresses.
Well, I got hand-me-up because Nita was taller than I, so she handed down, and not handed down, but handed up, I said.
I got the hand-me-downs.
Yeah.
I guess I got what was left over.
Yeah, what was left over, you got.
Oh gosh.
well, I learned something the other day. I was reading J. Hogue's, that he had edited his great uncle's diaries, and so I did not know this, and he was talking about Dundas. Mr. Dundas had the property that we call Dundas Heights, and he sold this property to Uncle Alec and his wife, and I had never known that before. And so that's how they got the how we got this farm.
Yes. Well, we bought that from Uncle Alec, I remember.
Yes,
Daddy did.
Yeah, but they had bought it from this Mr. Dundas.
And
I had not known that before.
Yeah. Is that a Scotch name, Dundas?
I don't know.
Sounds
of course,
like
we call that area Dundas Heights.
Yes, right.
And then Daddy named the farm in the orchard Blackland Fruit Farm.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from.
Well, this is some history of the family, too, not just the blacks, is it? Yeah. And Mr. Logan was related to, who gave us piano lessons?
Luster, Kathleen Luster.
Yeah,
Kathleen
Luster, yes.
Yeah.
Wasn't he her brother?
No, Horace.
No.
Horace Luster was
Horace
her brother.
Luster.
Yeah. And that's how we got the connection there with them through the marriage of Louise and Horace Luster.
I see. That was the connection.
So, I was trying to think of something I wanted to say about the house, and I can't think what it was. But Terry, will they put that? What do you call it? Would it be called a turret back on the house? Has that not been preserved? I think it has.
It has, and it will be put back. The columns for that are in the basement of the building, so we have the original columns.
You know, it's strange to me that I was never out on that little, there was like a little porch thing. I don't ever remember going out there.
I don't either.
Because you would have thought as a child, I would have wanted to. Maybe it was just not allowed to. I don't remember.
Yeah, probably not. It's actually really hard to get to. You have to crawl through a space in the attic.
That's why.
So that's why.
And there was a little porch on the second floor as well, but that was accessed through a window, so you really didn't go out onto it. It really was just aesthetic.
I've never been able, I don't remember, or figure out the little room that would be behind that. I mean, it had a door, and so I don't know whether that was meant to be a nursery, a sewing room, or what that was.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever said.
Yeah.
So I just don't recall.
Yeah, I don't know about that either, what its original intent was.
And then the rooms had wardrobes, because there weren't closets much.
No.
There might have been a few, but not very many closets. Right. And then I remember a big wardrobe that was in the hall upstairs, and then one in that bedroom that had the round part too. But I don't remember any closets, and maybe there were some, and I've just forgotten.
No, I think everything was done from those wardrobes.
Yeah, I think so. It's strange they didn't have a few closets, but they just didn't make them.
Yes, that's right.
What about like the floors in the house? Did they have carpets?
Most of them had.
Yes.
Well, rugs, not what we call carpeting. Just rugs.
Or did they have hardwood floors?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought they were.
And weren't some of those rugs sent from overseas to
Might
the
have been.
house? I remember
been.
that they talked about that. I don't know from where, but they were sent.
And I don't know who they were. I mean, I couldn't call by names, but there was always somebody there cleaning house. Do you remember that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Somebody was vacuuming or whatever they did, sweeping and that kind of thing. So there was a lot of that went on all the time, taken care of. And as you said Mary took care of the house. I remember going shopping with her. A&P was way down Main Street, and we'd go shopping. Yeah. And I remember she always bought cauliflower.
Yeah.
To eat cauliflower.
She liked cauliflower.
One of the main dishes we eat was cauliflower.
Yeah.
Do you know how long it took them to build the house? Was it finished in 1889?
90.
Oh, it was.
What was it,
finished in
97?
98.
98.
They started it in 97 and
Yeah.
finished it in 98.
Really? Didn't
Oh,
take
okay.
them that
It
long.
was 7 or 8 months, I guess,
Yeah.
to build it
Isn't
from
that
the time
amazing?
it burned
Mm-hmm.
until they were back in it.
Sure.
And we know that actually from Rosanna Croy Dawson's diaries.
Wasn't that wonderful that you found those
Yeah.
diaries? That was good. Well, at the
Georgia
back of the
Croy?
house,
Did
I
you
don't
say?
think, it's hard for me to explain it. I don't know whether there ever
Oh.
been any pictures, but the back of the house had a stairway up, and when you got to the top, see, it was covered over by the rest of the house. And on the left, if you went into it, you went into the kitchen, and if you went to the right, there was a bedroom there. So I think some of the people who worked there maybe stayed in that room. Now, does that fit in with some of the plans you've seen?
It does, yeah.
Okay. I just remember that. And then, of course, the spring house at the back
Right.
was wonderful because that's where they kept the milk and all of that.
What about other outbuildings? Were there any other structures on the
I
property?
don't remember.
I don't remember any.
I just
I don't
remember
remember
that spring
any.
house.
Yeah, the spring house.
But there
and-
must have been some kind of a barn or something for the cow, don't you think?
Well, I never did know where it
Yeah,
was or anything.
If
I just remember that cow in that pasture right
and
next
if they had
to the
one,
house.
it would have been down toward Water Street.
Yeah,
Drake-
where the water was.
Yeah, I think it would have been
Yeah.
that way. But I remember that spring house, and it was wonderful. You know, it was so cold. They kept all the milk in there,
Yeah.
all of that. So that was good.
Of all the spring houses that there were in Blacksburg, the only one left is over at Solitude. You know, that's the only spring house left.
Well, now there was a spring house near where we lived.
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
brick house.
that's
But
right.
it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah, they
Oh,
covered
took
it
out?
over.
Oh,
Covered
no,
it
really?
over. Yeah.
Oh, because that had musket holes in it, you
Mhm.
know. Yeah. Well, I'll be darned. Yeah. Do you remember when we had a family gathering and I got in the spring and cut my foot on some glass?
Well,
And
I think that
old
was
doctor. Who was the doctor that came?
I think that was the stream that went through the
Yes,
yard.
right,
I remember.
right. But who was the doctor? It was an old doctor that came and
I don't know.
fixed my foot.
But our father tried to pep you up. He said he'd come to the orchard and find the prettiest apple he could
Oh,
to
really?
give to you and
Oh, for
make
heaven's
you
sake.
feel better.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
Well, you know. Excuse me.
When he
typical.
had the orchard up here, of course, and if you ever bit into an apple, you had to sit there and eat that whole apple because you couldn't waste all the way down to the core, and he would have made you eat the core if he could have.
Yeah.
But you never did.
Mother
You
said
never
it was
did
all right
waste
to
an
eat a
apple.
quart.
I had this friend once, and we'd on our way home from
You don't have a
school,
cough drop, do you?
We'd stop in her house very often. And so her father saw her one day, and she
excuse
was
me.
giving each one of us an apple. And he said, "What are you doing? I just had to buy those apples from Mr. Apperson.
Yeah.
Don't give them apples."
And of course, off the farm, we had ham and we had milk and we had cream. And of course, we didn't appreciate it because we wanted Mother and Daddy to get it from the dairy and things like other kids had. You know, we didn't like it being brought in from the farm, fool as we were. And we'd go to Roanoke and they had an S&W cafeteria. And Mother would say, "Well, what did you girls eat?" And we'd say, "Ham and applesauce." And she'd say, "I didn't send you down there to eat ham and applesauce. We have that at home." But, oh, we had a great growing up. Growing up in Blacksburg was wonderful, just wonderful. You could go anywhere and do anything because nobody bothered you. Everybody was very protective of, you know, the children in the town.
And the farm where your orchard was
Right here.
one off of
Right
Place?
here.
Right here.
Right here.
The barn was right here. The packing house was right behind us.
Okay.
And all this out in here was orchard.
And didn't you tell me though that you also lived in the brick house off of Clay Street there?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Little
Uh-huh.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, our father helped take care of the Mountain View farm.
Okay.
And so it was his cousin. And I think he thought we needed to live in town. so he could look after the farm down there, and then it wasn't too far for this farm, so that's why we lived there.
Yeah, and we couldn't go in the orchard because of the snakes and things like that. We had to stay in the packing house. And the poison oak was pretty bad, so Daddy didn't make us go in the orchard to pull the apples off the tree. He had the men to do that, and then they'd bring them in. And I remember you had to stay out of school for a month or so till the packing of the apples got done.
Well, the people that worked and
Yeah,
did that.
yeah.
Yeah, so.
And they were paid 10 cents an hour, remember?
Oh, more than that,
Think
weren't
about
they?
10 cents an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you were really good and did well, you may make a quarter.
These were people from down the mountain, weren't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah,
They
down,
came up
yeah.
But they came.
for the apple season.
Yeah, they came and they worked faithfully. They were good.
Yeah, they were good.
But those were different days from today.
Yeah. And when payday came, when payday came, he always carried a gun, because he didn't know who was going to hurt him, or try to hurt him. And we had a building down there, and they had those doors where the top and the bottom, and they opened up the doors, and he stood behind the door and did the pay, so.
Yeah.
Well, we're off the Black House, aren't we? We're
Yeah.
back on the farm now.
Yeah, here we are on the farm.
Yeah, here we are on the farm. I'm glad Nita and Harlan built up here, and we built down on the lower part of the farm, down there on Patrick Henry, because Greer needed to get somewhere. We were going to build up in here, but Greer needed to get out to go to the arsenal at night if he was the engineer on a project, and they had trouble, so he went many nights, so that's why we built down there. But it's lots of fun growing up
we know
here.
about the Black House. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to think of
Yeah,
other
anything
things.
else, yeah.
Well, what I want to know, maybe I should remember, after Uncle Alec died, then did they immediately sell that house? 'Cause
The
we
Hogues got it. The Hogues got it. That was part of their part, see?
Oh, really?
That was their part. And we took downtown buildings, Black Logan's store and things like that. Daddy took those. I mean, the
really?
outside took that, and they got that.
Oh, so then Mary and grandmother moved to another house.
To an
Yeah,
apartment.
oh yeah, to an apartment. Yeah.
Okay.
And so they got that, and they still own the land down there, don't they, Terry? The Hogues, don't they own the land down there where things were built? On,
Square? I don't know that.
yeah,
It would be on the end over.
on the side there where there
Yeah.
was a filling station and so forth. They got all that land, and they've never sold it to anybody. They've kept it in that family.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so that's how
Now
it
you
was.
know.
Good.
I remember that our aunt had a garden, and I don't think she did a great deal of work in it herself. But did Mr. Tucker take care of that garden?
Oh, really?
I mean, for flowers and things
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
That was back of the house, not far from the spring house, back in that area. Yeah, she was really something of a gardener. Now, I don't remember seeing her pull weeds
Yeah.
and that kind of thing, but anyway, she took care of that garden.
But when that house burned, they were gone, to Florida at that time. And Mr. Tucker was responsible for the house, and they kind of always blamed him. And it wasn't his fault. He tried to get the fire out, but and it did a lot of damage. I remember Daddy talking about that, many times. Yeah.
Remember one Christmas when we were there, and I remember looking out the window at 5 o'clock in the morning, hoping it would snow for Santa Claus to come, and the rest of them were so provoked at us for getting up so early.
I think that's the only Christmas that I remember having
being there.
there. Yeah, we always
I don't
did.
know why we were there
I
at
don't
Christmas
either.
time.
No
I don't
idea.
remember it at all
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, I do remember, and I remember our getting up early and that kind of thing. But I don't know why we happened to have it there.
Maybe Mother and Daddy had gone away or something.
No, I think they were there.
Really?
I think they were there, yeah. I think they were, if I recall.
And Dr. Apperson was married before, and he had 7 children, as you know. And practiced in Marion, Virginia. And we grew up with all of those people, and I never knew that they were half brothers and sisters till I was about 12 years old.
Really?
Because Daddy was in business with them, in the orchard business and so forth. So I never knew that they were, half brothers and sisters.
All the Holds.
Yeah.
Well, they were all such a nice family. They got along.
Oh,
nicely.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Nice
that's
family.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody depended on our father because he was the favorite of the four, Alec and Harvey and Mary and Daddy, and he was the favorite, so he really took care of everything.
All the old maid aunts and the widows.
Yeah.
We have beautiful apple country out west, and I often thought Daddy would have loved that area there.
Yeah.
But he wouldn't leave Blacksburg because he felt very responsible.
I know somebody else like that.
Do you? Oh,
I have to tell her that I don't have anything against any other place. I just love Blacksburg so much.
yeah.
She says, I'm not leaving because long time ago we decided, well, if anything happened to Greer and Harlan, that she and I would live together. But I'm going to live in Christiansburg. She's going to live in Blacksburg. So we're not going to get together.
I don't believe Blacksburg.
And I'm staying in California, and you're staying in Wyoming.
Right. Among the cowboys and Indians.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else we haven't asked you?
No, I don't think so.
Have we filled you in
Have you?
well enough?
We'll think of all the things we wish
You
we'd
will,
said as
yeah.
soon as you leave.
Yes, right.
Is there anything else you want to know?
I don't think so. I think you've done a great job of answering questions about everything.
Well, thank you.
We appreciate this.
Oh,
Yes,
yes,
we
we
do.